We're at 3 minutes past, so I think we'll make a start. A very warm welcome on this Thursday afternoon to a session about using social media for influence and impact. So hello, my name is Leigh Kendall. I am the Programme Lead Social Influence for NHS Horizons. So for the next hour, we're going to be talking about the role Twitter has with healthcare involvement and improvement. That's super connected, the spread and reach, how to measure your work on Twitter, and how it can help you with your work. So it's going to be an informal session, interactive and fun. I hope you'll find it fun anyway. So throughout the session, please join in the chat box with the reflections, comments and any questions, and we will pause throughout the session as well for any comments, reflections, questions that you might have. And during the session, please do tweet if you would like. My handle is Leigh Kendall, and our hashtag is #RNHSPeople. No worries, Eve. Very warm welcome to you. Thanks for joining. And hiya, welcome to you as well. So what is social media? So social media is various websites and applications that help users create and share content to participate in social networking. So it can help us share information, share ideas, build networks via virtual communities. And it helps us share information and content, increase our spread and reach globally. It transcends traditional hierarchies, thinking not only just about the hierarchies of traditional positional hierarchies of chief exec versus someone perhaps lower down in the banding. It's also thinking about organisations, different specialties, different departments. We know in the NHS we can be quite siloed, so it breaks down those hierarchies as well. So different organisations, different specialties, different departments that might not otherwise talk to each other can do so. And it also breaks down hierarchies in terms of patients and healthcare professionals talking to each other as well on a level playing field. And it democratises society, so anybody can have a voice, seek to influence, build networks, and have conversations and impact issues that are important to you. And while we have the logos of Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Pinterest, and LinkedIn on here, our session today is mainly going to focus on Twitter. So social media in general represents a global shift in how the health and care system, people, patients, professionals, and students connect. So as we were talking about in the last slide, it breaks down those hierarchies between patients and healthcare professionals. It gives patients perhaps living with long-term conditions the opportunity to support one another, give them peer support. It helps people across the NHS, across health and care in general, break down those, again, not just the positional hierarchy boundaries, but also geographical boundaries throughout the UK and also internationally as well. It helps people learn, share information, share their passions, share what they're interested in, share information so we can learn, share, provide the best possible care for patients using the medium of Twitter. And again, this shows how the healthcare industry is changing. It's breaking down those traditional hierarchies about them and us, how we communicate, not only using those traditional methods anymore. And the major contributor to this is how people are using social media like Twitter more and more. And so the reason we are not going to be talking more about Facebook, Pinterest, and Instagram is because while all of those channels are used for healthcare improvement in various ways, Twitter is the #1 channel for sharing and influencing. And the main reason for that is because Twitter is more open. On Facebook and LinkedIn, for example, you need to have friended or connected with somebody in order to openly interact with them. But Twitter is much more open as long as you have an open profile. So now is our first opportunity for some audience interaction. I'm going to ask Zara to set up our poll, please. So a quick question. Do you have a Twitter account?
1 second. I'm just going to open up that poll. Oh, sorry, I don't think it's come up yet. 1 second.
No worries. I can see people putting their answer in the chat box. Anyway, so technology is being naughty. We can always move on to the next one.
No, sorry, it was because I didn't have the ball off you. That's the only thing. 1 second, I'll share it now if you want to.
Okay, thank you.
There you go. Sorry about that.
Thank you. That's all right. If we just have about 20 seconds for this poll, so if you wouldn't mind putting yes or no, whether or not you have a Twitter account, and then press submit, which is the grey button at the bottom right.
Okay, I'm going to close that poll now. And
Thank
we
you.
should get the results in a few seconds.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
Should be on your screen now.
Lovely. Thank you very much. So 12 people have a Twitter account and 2 don't yet. Hopefully by the end of the session I will be able to persuade you why it will be useful for you. And 5 people didn't answer. I hope there were no technical issues there. If you did, hopefully we'll be able to sort that out for the next poll. So there is another poll right now. If you wouldn't mind setting up, please, Zara. So we'd like to know, what is your Twitter confidence level? Do you think you're a whiz? Are you finding your feet? Do you have an account but not really sure what you're doing yet? Or you don't have a Twitter account just yet? So again, if you put click in the box that corresponds to your answer and press submit, which is the button on the bottom right.
Okay, I'm going to close the poll now.
Lovely, thank you, Zara.
And you should see the results on screen.
Thank you very much. Super. There's 2 of us who think that they're a whiz on Twitter. That's absolutely an account, but not really what you're sure what you're doing yet. And there are a couple of people who don't have a Twitter account yet. So I hope for the next 50 minutes or so you will learn lots of things that will help you improve your Twitter confidence level. Thank you very much, Sarah, and thank you everybody for answering the poll. So this is a sketch I drew a couple of years ago. I crowdsourced it from my friends on Twitter. So what things do you need to do to be successful on Twitter? So the number one thing is to be authentic, genuine, human and kind. Be curious and ask questions. Don't just share with people what you think about things all of the time and talk about yourself. Ask people what they think about things. You share other people's content. And be a good partner. Don't just share things that other people might like as well, that you think they might be able to benefit from. Be clear about your purpose. What do you want to be known for and who do you want to influence and why? Be credible. Social media, perhaps not unfairly, gets a bad rep for sharing misinformation, fake news. So always check your sources. Sometimes you get things wrong, so show humility if you do get things wrong. And remember, trust comes in like a tortoise and out like a horse. And add value to conversations. It's tempting to just retweet, but add a comment and a quote tweet to say, why you're sharing something. You might not agree with something, but you can politely say why you don't agree, or tag someone else in who you think might benefit from your tweet. Set aside a small amount of time each day to engage. So Twitter is a skill, just like anything else, it requires an investment in time. And just like you would with your emails every day, take some time every day to check Twitter. Because, of course, building relationships, because that's what Twitter is about. It's about building relationships, networks, friendships. It takes time to build those networks. So it's really worth the investment in time. If I was going to do this sketch note again, I would add something else, to rest. because of course we all have really busy lives. Our working lives are really busy. We probably have family commitments, our hobbies and things like that. So it can be quite easy to fall down a rabbit hole with Twitter. It can be a time suck. So there's no one right answer for anybody, but find a way that works for you, whether it's something you do at a particular time of the day, or when you're at a conference or something, when you've got something you really want to say. And hopefully throughout the rest of the session you'll learn some tips that you can find a way of using Twitter that will work for you. And of course, on Twitter, we always need to respect confidentiality and other professional boundaries. I'm not sure if anybody on the session today is a patient-facing member of staff, but of course we would never publish anything about patients at all, and always be careful about what you might say that might cause yourself or the organisation embarrassment. And never say on social media what you wouldn't say to someone's face. So on Twitter, things can get quite heated sometimes, especially on healthcare issues, things can get quite passionate. The wise thing to do is just to take a step back. And if the rule of thumb to follow as well, if you're ever thinking whether I should do something or not, don't. Count to 10, take a step back, always be respectful, always show humility, be polite, be curious, but never tweet while you're angry. Eva's got a problem that she can't see the slides. Zara, can you help these, please?
Sure, I'll pop in now.
Thank you. And most crucially of all, in terms of how to build your social influence and impact on Twitter, is using your social media networks to make action happen. So connecting with the super connectors, using diverse voices, working with those networks to spread your work, and to find out from other people how you might be able to help each other. It's a big community. Make it work for you. Just moving on. So just to talk a bit more about the guidelines. NHS England and Improvement has its own guidelines, which you can find on SharePoint. And if there are any nurses, midwives, doctors on here as well, that you will have your own guidelines from your Royal College and the organisation that you're registered with. So it's not to frighten anybody, because of course you might have heard in the media stories where someone's got into trouble, lost their job and things. So try not to worry too much. Those are the exceptions to the rule, and as long as you keep within the rules, keep within the parameters, as per the previous slide, don't tweet while angry, don't share anything that breaches confidentiality, you will stay on the right side of the rules. But please do take the time to read the guidelines just to make sure. It's better safe than sorry. And again, rule of thumb, if ever you're in doubt, don't tweet. Excellent. The slides are back. Fantastic. Thank you, Zara. So just to quickly go over some Twitter turn-ons and Twitter turn-offs. So again, it's about being polite, it's being kind, relevant, authentic. Don't play the game, try and be someone you're not. People want to know the real you. Find your people, share relevant content, give thanks and give credit where it's due. And so Twitter turn-offs, just as it's no different on Twitter to it as in real life. So if people who are always talking about themselves, the people soon get bored with them. If you keep saying the same thing again and again and again. Cliquiness, sometimes you get some cliques on Twitter, they don't want other people to join their conversation, but if it's a private conversation, Twitter is probably not the best place to have that conversation. And if you're just broadcasting, if you're always saying, look what I've done and things like that, you're not engaging with people, people will soon get bored of you. So quick tour of Twitter. So hopefully this will be familiar to many of you, but for anybody who doesn't have a Twitter account yet, hopefully this will be useful for you. So the @ sign is your handle, so that's your username, the way that, and that's the way that people can use to tag you into tweets. And it's worth just pointing out that if you set up your Twitter account in the last year or so, you might well have a handle which is name and a load of random digits. So Twitter has done this to help identify bots. So Twitter gives users this handle with the assumption that whereas real humans will bother to change it to something more memorable, bots are unlikely to. So you can change it to something more memorable and relevant and personal to you by going to more settings and privacy. And it's always worth on your profile to put a relevant picture that shows who you are as a human being, and so people can see who you are as well. And in your bio, include points about what you do, not just your job title and what you do as a job, but what you are interested in. So who are you as a human being? You are more than your job, of course. What hobbies do you have? What are you really passionate about? What kind of things can followers expect to find on your feed? And a useful thing to do is to have a pinned tweet on your profile. So when you're tweeting a lot, your tweets will soon, of course, fall down on your timeline. So it's a good idea to pin a tweet. You could pin a tweet as something that's particularly important, that you want people to read, perhaps an event, something that's particularly pertinent. So you can pin it to your profile page, and the way you do that is for the tweet you want to pin, click the little downward-facing arrow in the top right-hand corner and pin it to your profile. So there's some really quick tips for things to make your Twitter profile personal to you. So the anatomy of a tweet. So each tweet has that's a typo there, 280 character maximum. In your tweet, to make it the most useful for impact and influence, it's useful to put a hashtag in it. And hashtags are useful for finding and collating tweets on the same topic and helps other people find you as well. And it's always useful to put a relevant and appropriate image because people's Twitter timelines get quite busy. So pictures are something that really can help capture people's attention. If this image isn't yours, it's always good manners to give credit to the artist as well. And because you've got 280 characters in a tweet, you can sometimes run out of space. And you, in a tweet, you'll probably want to tag other people in so you can have a conversation, you get other people's attention, involve people as well. And if you're tagging lots of people, you can soon run out of space to say what you want to say in your tweet. So a good tip is to tag up to 10 people in the picture. So the way you can do that is there's a little icon that says tag people. So that's a good tip to maximise the potential of each tweet that you send. So if you have lots and lots to say, even if you're tagging people in the picture to save your space, sometimes 280 characters just isn't enough for what you want to say. So you can do a thread. A thread might be useful for when you've got a lot of things to say about the people plan, you've got a narrative that you want to explain, perhaps that a blog isn't relevant, but there's a story you want to tell. Or perhaps you're at a conference and you want to talk about the sessions you're attending. So a thread is a good way to keep the conversation together, which helps other people track your story, track your narrative, and also helps yourself by making your content all in one place so you can find it easily. There's two ways of creating a thread. So the first option is where you've got lots to say, a narrative that you've already prepared. So you can write 280 characters in each tweet in your thread. So you start your thread by writing your first content, and then you can press the little button, it's a circle with a cross in it, and it gives you another tweet. And then you continue your explanation. You can tag people, the hashtags in as usual. And if you want to write more tweets, you press the cross button again. And once you've finished, you click Tweet All. The second option is when you're tweeting at a conference or an event. You probably want to tweet as you go rather than wait to the end to publish it. So include the hashtag of the event, and once you've done one tweet, you simply reply to your own tweet. And once you've done this a few times, Twitter will realise you're writing a thread, and you'll see an option to add another tweet at the bottom of the last tweet. And it's a really good idea to do that because, of course, the conferences, not everybody can go to the physical conference. So it's a good way to build your influence and impact by being a go-to person, and it's a good way to be a good corporate citizen as well, and a good partner by adding to people's knowledge. So we're talking about with Twitter networks and building communities. And we found in our working horizons that people who are highly connected have twice as much power to influence change as those with hierarchical power. So that means in a traditional organisation, the chief exec, the board, will have lots of influence to make things happen. On social media, it's not necessarily that positional hierarchy that can make things happen. People from any sort of role, band, can make a change by building their networks, building their influence on social media. So it's well worth investing the time on social media to make those networks, build those connections, learn and share with each other to make change happen. And employees have 10 times more connections on social media than do corporate social media accounts. That's because corporate accounts, by their nature, tend to be more broadcasting, and employees, of course, we're human beings, we can have those relationships, talk about what's important to us as humans, and learn, share, have conversations and things. So it's another way of showing how, as employees, as individuals, we can build our influence and impact using social media by taking time to get to know one another, learning, sharing, building connections, joining tweet chats, sharing what we know, and helping one another out. So in order to build those connections, we need to find our people. And once we follow lots of people on Twitter, it can seem a bit overwhelming. You think, oh my goodness, where on earth do I start? And so a good way of finding your people on Twitter is by using lists. So lists are a way of segmenting people. So you might have HR directors or people who work in the Northeast, or nurse directors or chief medical officers, anything like that. And so here's a screenshot of Helen's profile to show you how you can find a list. It might look different on different apps, or whether you're using computer Twitter or phone Twitter, but the thing you always need to look for is the 3 little dots on someone's profile. And then you'll be able to see the list of lists that people have. So once you click on any of these lists, you'll be able to see the tweets of the people in that list. And the beautiful thing is that you can subscribe to someone's list, so you don't need to go through the path of going to their own profile. It then comes under your own list. And the really good thing about that is that if you're, say, looking for someone in the Northeast, for example, you can look through the list and find who might be someone to have a chat with, or see what they're talking about, see what's interesting to them, see what they're passionate about. And of course, to be a good corporate partner, don't just set up your own list as well, and you can do that with the little icon that you can see with the arrow there. So click on that, give it a title, and add people. So we found through our research that just 3% of people in an organisational system typically influence 85% of the other people. And we can see that in our organisations, that we all know the one person in our office who knows everything. If the printer is broken, they know how to get it fixed and things. They're the go-to person, the person who people ask how to make things happen. And the same thing seems to be true on social media. So we found through research that Graham McKenzie, who is a GP in Scotland, he's found that in health and care globally, tweets by just 3.3% of tweeters accounted for 85% of retweets. So there's a core group of influencers, super connectors, those people who network between different communities, different specialties, and unite people. So how can you be part of that 3%? So in Twitter, the biggest opportunities for us who are trying to make a difference in health and care, the biggest opportunities for us are curators and sharers of knowledge. So what that means is if you find information that you think other people might find useful, whether it's a journal or a case study or a video or a blog, sharing that on Twitter for the benefit of others to learn, because it can be a complement to perhaps more traditional newsletters or newspapers and things like that, and sharing knowledge as well. And something that we see quite a lot on Twitter is people asking for help with something. People on Twitter tend to be very generous and will give people the help that they need or direct people to somebody else if they don't know themselves. And it helps bridge those networks. Say, for example, someone in Exeter has a problem with something and someone in Newcastle has a similar problem that they find a solution. In the real world, people in those places might not have the opportunity to learn, share and connect, but Twitter can connect those people. So that's building bridges between disconnected groups. And another word might have heard in relation to social media is how it can be an echo chamber. And again, that can detract from the benefits of social media. And what an echo chamber means, just in case you haven't heard of that term, is where people follow people only like themselves, which confirms their biases. So an example to use might be something like Brexit. So whether you are a Leaver or a Remainer, if you only follow on social media people who are Leavers or Remainers, you will think that everybody else thinks like you, and the people on the other side, so to speak, are wrong. And so that creates unhelpful binaries and them and us mentality, and you get upset between different people, and it's not very helpful for getting things done. So the way to break out of an echo chamber is create a spectrum of allies. So that means finding people who might not agree with you. It can be against our human nature because, of course, our human nature is to find people like us, find people who agree with us. But if we're wanting to make a difference in the world, we need to have sometimes our opinions challenged in a positive way. And sometimes we also need to be challenged in, we might think our direction of travel is good, but it might not be the right way. So don't follow the temptation to just follow people like you. Challenge yourself to follow people who might not think like you as well, and have an open mind to different opinions. And of course, like we talked about earlier, always be polite, have humility if you're wrong as well, and check your sources, and have respectful, courteous discourse on social media. So this, which looks a rather bizarre graph, and I don't expect you to follow the detail, but this is a graph from the first our NHS People Tweet Chat we held last summer. So you can see the clusters here. So these clusters are communities of people. And so if these communities weren't talking to other communities, you could say they were an echo chamber. And the green lines in between the clusters show that the tweet chat helped these communities talk to each other. And I was facilitating that tweet chat, and what was beautiful is that people were making new connections with people they didn't know before. People from similar specialties and different organisations were making connections, and they were saying, I'll DM my email address and we can have a phone call and talk about these issues. Or people were sharing links to things, and it's a really lovely thing to show how Twitter can build those networks. People can learn from each other, because, of course, whoever we are across the NHS, across England, we have similar problems. Let's work together to find solutions. So I'm going to pause now for a moment. If you've got any questions or reflections on what we've been talking about so far, please pop them in the chat box. So Rachel, how would you go about doing one of those graphs for your tweets? So Graham Mackenzie very kindly did them for us. He does them on a pro bono basis. So I will drop you his Twitter handle. Let me just find it. Bear with me just a second to get in contact with him. He is You're very welcome. It's fascinating, those things, to see how the connections are made. Really, really useful resource. Oh, yes. Hi, Rebecca. Yes, I do indeed. So we're going to be talking about simpler in the next section. So watch this space. It's Node Excel, Rachel, is the name of the graph, and that's the technology, the platform that he uses. So Gillian is asking, can you have more than one Twitter handle? Yeah, people do. There's lots of people who do that. So they use one for, when they're talking about work things, when they're going to work conferences and things, and one for perhaps their more personal interests. I don't personally, because I look after Fligara, the Horizons account, the school account, and it just gets a bit much. But yeah, people do. It's a very personal choice. If you prefer to keep your work and personal life separate, completely up to you. But what I would say is, people want to know who is behind the account, and so if you are just tweeting about work things, make sure people know who is the person behind it, because people make friends and relationships with people. So everybody's more than a job title. So make sure there's things in there as well that show the person behind Twitter handle. Does that make sense? You're very welcome. If there's no more questions, I'll move on. But if there are more questions, please just pop them in the chat box as we go. So, when we're talking about spread and reach on Twitter, you probably heard about the holy grail, which is going viral. And going viral can be something amazing, because lots of people all over the world are seeing your content. But what I would say about that is don't just focus on going viral. Don't gamify. Be authentic and be genuine, and share something because you believe in it, just because you think lots of people might like seeing it. Instead of trying to gamify things, you find your people. Find people who share your interests, your passions, and find people through similar hashtags, calls to action, thinking about narrative. So if we're thinking about something like the people plan, especially, once it's launched, we need to make the people plan a reality. And the way we do that is by connecting with people, because we need to think about how the people plan is going to be relevant to each one of us as an individual, what we need to do to make it reality. So it's calls to action. What do people need to do? What do people need to think about? How can we use Twitter to amplify our messages and bring people together? So rather than thinking about going viral, thinking about sharing good content, connecting people. So the kind of content that has the best reach and spread is stories with high emotion. So, of course, the NHS is about people. It's our patients, the people we look after, and the people who work for the NHS as well. The people who work so hard every single day, every single night to make things happen. So, sharing things about human beings, what are they doing? What's their work? What's their passion? What makes them get up in the morning? Why do they enjoy working for the NHS? Thinking about the narrative. And also social currency. As British people, we can often be a bit reticent to blow our own trumpet. Don't be afraid to show what you are really good at, what you're passionate about. If you've written a good paper and you think other people might be interested in it or benefit from it, don't be afraid to share it. And that's the way you can build communities as well. We need experts. Don't be afraid to share what you are good at. That's the way we make improvements. And of course, social media is fleeting, so that's why going viral isn't necessarily the thing to aim for. So the thing to think about is when you're sending a tweet is millions of people might have seen it, but has it had an impact? And that's what we want. We don't just want the sort of viral video that makes people perhaps have an aha moment very briefly, but they forget about it a few minutes later. So it's thinking about so what and who cares. Are they taking an action as a result of it? Are they sharing it? What are they doing as a result of reading your tweet? So the way to maximise your reach and spread and build your influence and impact is to be authentic, So again, not gamifying, talking about who you are as a human being, connecting with others as human beings, being generous, again, being kind, giving advice where people are asking for it, or pointing people in the direction of someone who might be able to help, share interesting content, whether that's a journal or a video or a blog or something, and use complementary platforms. So you can use blogs, they're a really good idea, perhaps just 30 seconds. And again, it shows who the person is behind the Twitter account. And you can hear the passion in someone's voice, there's animation in their face. And it also helps you become a thought leader in your area of specialism, if that's what you want to do. So this is a slide from the School for Change Agents. So with the people plan, what we want to do is for everybody to work together to create to make this plan a reality. So this is a social movement public narrative methodology. So we start off with ourselves, what our challenges are, who we are as people, what our passions are, and we call other people to action. We work with other people to make things happen. And we need to look at the fierce urgency of now. So why do we need this to happen now? What are our calls to action? What do we want people to do? Why is it really important that we need to do this? So when you're sending your tweets on social media and sharing content on social media, thinking about why you are doing it, what you want people to do as a result of that. What is your narrative? What is your ask? And we communicate our stories, our values through our emotions. Very often we see reports with lots of bar charts and things, and of course they're really important, the analysis, the strategy, but the why is really, really important with our narrative, our motivation. Why do we do what we do? Why does it matter? What is the heart of what we do? And sometimes on Twitter you can see people perhaps sharing more of a stream of consciousness of what they had for their breakfast and things like that. And that's fine if that's what they want to do, but for real genuine influence and impact and connecting communities and things, it's really thinking about the why behind things. And for spreading change, it's a good idea to think about this acronym called ACE. So it's creating a call to action. And it's creating a call to action that promotes closer connection with people you care about. So building that community within the NHS, whether it's the NHS in its broader sense, or within a specialty or geographical area, or within a particular organisation as well. And help it be customisable as well, reshaped by people taking part. And as I understand, part of the people plan is to be looking at how different organisations can customise, perhaps the wrong word, but what they need to do locally to make things a reality. So it's helping people understand what they might need to do to take part in a way that's relevant to them. So influence and impact, in brief, is about engagement. So it's starting conversations, not just giving people your opinions on things or saying, look at me. It's about having conversations with people, asking people questions, making a positive contribution, not just retweeting all the time, but adding value to it. It's about communities, like-minded people interested in the same thing, having a shared common goal, collaborating. It's about quality, not just quantity. So going back to that sketch note at the beginning where we were talking about finding time every day to tweet and not going down rabbit holes, as easy as that can be to do. It's about quality. If you don't have something to say on a particular day, don't worry. You may may make up for it in another day. And it's better to send a tweet where you've got something that you actually have, you've got something meaningful, genuine, with real value to say, than send a tweet for the sake of it. And you'll see studies in various places saying X time of the day is the best time to send a tweet. I always say the best time to send a tweet is when you've got something to say, rather than because there's a particular time of the day. So don't stress yourself out with thinking that you've got to send lots. It's more about quality of your relationship, the quality of your content. Being generous and supporting others. So being inclusive, diverse, in its broadest sense, so including patients, including all sorts of different people, different views, finding that spectrum of allies. And again, the authenticity, not playing the game, tweeting because you've got something to say that is of value, rather than because you're seeking to build impressions or go viral. Again, we're going to pause and take some questions or reflections if anybody has them. Your questions in the chat box. You're very welcome, Eva. Glad it's helpful. The question here, if I want to send a response to a tweet, will it show publicly as your way to measure privately? Yes. As long as your account is open, everybody will see the response to a tweet. There is there's direct messaging in order to be private, so not everybody can see it. So if you're looking at desktop Twitter, on the left-hand side you'll have messages. You'll usually need to be following each other in order to message each other, but if the person you want to message isn't following you, you can usually just pop them a tweet saying, do you mind following me so I can send you a direct message. People usually do that. That's absolutely not a problem at all. Does that help? And a question from Gillian, how would you stop it taking over your life? Oh, that's $1 million question. I love the potential of Twitter and how it can help learn and share, and I'm always looking at things. It's sometimes I have to just put my phone down and go and do something else because you can fall down rabbit holes. So it's about, I think, being strict with yourself. Because we've all got, busy working lives, family, hobbies and things. We're spending our working day in front of a screen, and if we're looking at, our phone in the evening as well, it can be easy to burn out. So I think, being strict with yourself and, know when you've got to put your phone down and go and see the sky or do something else instead. But it can be hard. So, no hard or fast rule. Find your own way forward. There's a couple of questions here. If you like a tweet, does it show on your followers feed? It won't show on their followers feed, but it will show. Does it always? Oh, I get you. Sorry. Is that when you mean it will show that Leigh Kendall liked such and such a tweet? Is that what you mean? That's Twitter's new algorithm to help reach. It tends to. I'm not sure that's entirely helpful because you get things that you don't necessarily want to see, but Twitter keeps rolling out these new things. Yes, it does. It's often difficult to think of new material for Twitter and have targets for tweeting certain numbers of times a week. So are they targets you put on yourself, Rachel, or targets that someone else puts on you? Targets the department set. Okay. Would it be helpful to have a conversation after the session? I'll put my email address in here. You can drop me a line if you like, and we can have a quick conversation on the phone or something, if that's helpful for you. There we go. And anybody else can do that as well. You're all welcome to email me for more information if you'd like. The other questions. Can you limit in a non-offensive way who you see on your Twitter feed? Yes, you can mute people. So say for example, someone is tweeting incessantly about Love Island or something like that, or or you're finding them a bit much, you can mute them, and that's different to blocking. So if you block someone, they can see that you've blocked them, but if you mute them, they can't see that you've muted them, and you just won't see their content in your timeline. So that's a good way of avoiding the faux pas, because it can be a bit awkward, can't it? When someone's saying, "Why on earth did you block me?" So yeah, that's a good way of avoiding that awkward moment. And you can unmute them as well. What visibility to politician? Not sure. Twitter might not necessarily be the best channel to communicate. It might emailing them might be better. Most politicians have a website or something, so you can find their email address. That's probably the better route to take. Yeah, I'm curious. How would you know if someone has unfollowed you? I think the best way is just to look at their profile, and if you go to their profile, you'll be able to see that you're following them, and there should be a grey button as well saying they follow you. There's no auto way of finding that out that I know of, but that's the best way. Hi Rory, no worries at all. In my experience, what's the best profile of our Twitter audience? So is Twitter best used for already engaged audiences? I think it's there's no hard and fast rule. I found from tweet chats in particular that people have been encouraged to join tweet chats who haven't really used Twitter before. And what we've done is giving people participants guides, a quick guide on how to get engaged with a Twitter chat, and then they've discovered the value of Twitter and got more engaged with Twitter. And we've done work with nurses and midwives in Horizons as part of our work with transforming the perceptions of those professions. And we've done quite a lot of work with them to encourage them to join Twitter, the benefits of learning, sharing, building their influence to show what those professions do. So it's about encouraging, I think, and education and showing people what the benefit is of joining Twitter and learning and sharing within their professions and, again, transcending those boundaries. Does that help? If you want to send a politician a tweet they might not be aware of, I think email is the best channel for that for politicians, I would say. And if there's any more questions, then please do pop them in the chat box. You're very welcome, Rory. And it's recorded as well, so you can always catch up with the beginning bit that you might have missed. So why not Twitter? Again, if they're not following you, they might not see it. So without knowing more context, it's a bit difficult to give any more advice. But yeah, by all means, try Twitter and try sending them a direct message. If they don't follow you, they might not see it. But I don't know what else I could suggest for that one. I'm sorry. But if you want to email me and give me any more context, my email address is in the chat box. You're very welcome to do that. Okay, if I will move on, if that's all right with everybody. So measuring our influence and impact. So Rebecca, you asked earlier about how we can measure and track our hashtags. So the fantastic way of doing that is a website called Simpler. So it's free to access. And the trouble is you can only access data relating to the previous 30 days. But what it can give you for paying no money at all is absolutely fantastic. So and what it does is an organisation in Silicon Valley, they track healthcare-related hashtags from all over the world. So it's a good way of tracking your influencers who is engaging in a particular topic. Now I'll show you on the next slide what the data is that Simpler can give you. So on the right-hand column, you can see the numbers of impressions. So what impressions is the number of times a tweet will have shown up on somebody's timeline. So impressions are a number that we can get excited about because they can seem quite big. But the caveat with that is it only shows that it's shown up on someone's timeline. It doesn't show whether someone's interacted with it. So, for example, someone could be mindlessly scrolling through their Twitter while watching telly and might not have actually seen your tweet. So impressions are really, really good. sort of benchmark for seeing how you're going, but they're be taken with a pinch of salt. And so we have a column on the right, the highest impressions, again, to be taken with a pinch of salt, because of course you get the mathematics. NHS England is at the top, and they probably have the most amount of followers, so the maths of who's going to be seeing their tweets is going to be more than somebody else. And prolific tweeters, this is something that can be gamified, because of course anybody can sit and send lots and lots of tweets with the hashtag. So while that's useful to see who's most engaged with your topic, it's not necessarily the most useful metric. But the most useful metric that Cynthia gives you here is the top 10 influential, because this can't be gamified. And so you see the numbers next to each handle show you the simpler rank. And what this does is very similar to Node Excel graph that you saw a little while ago. It shows you the connections that those people are making. It shows you their reach. So it gives you an idea of their influence through how many times their tweets are being seen on different people's timelines, and how many times they're being engaged with and retweeted and shared. So that's the really, really useful metric to use. And the other thing that Cynthia will show you as well, that I've not done the screenshot of, but it will give you the top 50 people who are engaging with your hashtag. So it's a really good way of seeing who is most interested. And again, if you're wanting to find your people, it's more worth spending the time investing in looking at who is engaging, what they're saying. It's a good way of finding some intelligence about what people are perhaps saying about the project that you're working on, what people are engaging with and talking about. And it's always useful to check your personal engagement on Twitter. So the way to do that is by going onto the desktop computer Twitter. It doesn't work on your phone Twitter, unfortunately. But what you do is you've got a column on the left-hand side, you go to More, and you go to Analytics, and it brings up a page where you've got lots of numbers and impressions and tweets and things. So you can change the date range if you want to. It goes up to about 3 months, I think, and it gives you a breakdown of your engagement. And it's really useful to see which of your content is getting the most traction. And of course, again, it's about being authentic, not gamifying things. You're being genuine. So don't get too hung up on things, because you tweet things because you have a genuine interest in them. But it's always useful, I think, especially as a common person as I am, to think about what people are most engaging with. What do they most like? What's working more than anything else? And your engagement rate is a really key point to show how well you're doing. It's better than impressions, because as we talked about a few minutes ago, impressions is more about how many times a tweet has shown up on someone's timeline. It doesn't show whether they're engaged with it or read it. So your engagement rate is something that you'll see on the right-hand column. You'll see the engagement rate. About 1.6 in general tends to be a good engagement rate. And what the engagement counts is any action that someone has taken. So it could be liking the tweet, it could be retweeting, it could be clicking on the profile, or any sort of action that is more than just scrolling on by. So engagement rate is really useful, because it shows people are taking the time out of their busy lives, out of their busy timeline, to take the time to find out more. And so the way you do that is on your analytics screen. It'll give you a list. You can choose top tweets or tweets and replies. You click on any of those and it'll give you the breakdown that you can see on the right. So it's been quite a whistle-stop tour. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you, Maria. Yes, you're very welcome to have a set of my slides. I will share them, and we can also share the recording as well. So what I'd like you to do in the chat box, we're going to do something called a mad tea. So what I'd like you to do is in the chat box, write your answer, but don't press send yet. So I'm going to give you for a few seconds just to write your answer, and then when I say 3, 2, 1, we will press send. How has your confidence level changed from earlier in the session? Has it changed? Okay, 3, 2, 1, press go. Excellent. Fantastic. I'm glad you found it useful. Thank you very much. And we have one more before I let you go. So in the chat box again, what is one thing you've learned from this session that you will put into action? And again, please wait to go before pressing send. Okay, 3, 2, 1, press go. Fantastic. Be braver. Absolutely. It's about having conversations, I think, and I think we can be a bit scared of getting into trouble, but I think there's so much more to be gained than the negatives on Twitter. So yeah, please do go for it, Rory. I look forward to having conversations on Twitter. And simple analytics and muting, absolutely. Threads. Having conversations with the comms team, more interested. Threads. Commenting as well as retweeting. Yeah, absolutely. I'm delighted that you've learned things. Thank you so much for joining us for the session today. There was a lot to go through, so I hope that you've all got things you can go away and use on Twitter and reap the benefits. Learn more from other people across the country. Use it for your work with the people plan. Learn and share with each other, use it to amplify and spread and build networks and connections and have fun as well. So, and again, if you've got any more queries, please don't hesitate to email me. I'm more than happy to help. And I'll share the slides and there'll be a recording as well. But thank you very much for joining. You're very welcome. And have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.